Lake Effect brings you conversations about what's happening in Milwaukee and the people, places, and organizations that shape the community. This is Lake Effect Spotlight from WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.
There are countless reasons to visit Wisconsin's Driftless Region. The landscape of steep river valleys, exposed rock formations, and forested ridges are ideal for any outdoor enthusiast. The area is full of meandering streams and rivers with cold spring-fed water pushing through the rocks, making the Driftless region one of the best trout fishing habitats in the whole country. Trout season runs through October 15th with some of the best fishing conditions in the fall. So, to help you plan a fly fishing trip to the Driftless, Lake Effect's Becky Mortensen is joined by Geri Meyer, the owner of the Driftless Angler, and Logan Wroge with Travel Wisconsin.
In researching this topic, I was pretty surprised to learn that there are like 30 different ways you can fish. So, Geri, let's just start with the basics. What is fly fishing and what sets it apart from other kinds of fishing?
So, fly fishing is the use of primarily pretty much all artificial lures or bait. We use a fly rod and fly reel, and the idea of this is to aerialize your bait or lures or whatever. We call them flies. And the idea is to basically fool a fish into thinking that what is landed in front of them is a bug. We primarily use flies that imitate insects. Some will imitate small fish. As we get into larger, outside of the driftless fishing for larger fish and even into salt, we will use different bait and different flies. But the idea, yes, is to keep them in the air and to place them in front of fish. And then as current comes back, we strip them to us. So instead of just that one toss that you would with like a conventional setup, one and then let it sink and bring it in, which I've done as a kid as well. But this is, it's a little more interactive. To me, it is, I find it a little more interesting personally.
Yeah, those lures, the flies, there's an art to that, right? Can you talk a little bit about what they look like and what they're made of?
Yeah. So originally they were primarily made out of hair. So like elk, deer, bear, all different kinds of natural hair as well as feathers. So in trying to imitate either certain insects or certain flies, there is most definitely an art in making them. I do it not as often as I should, and sometimes it's just dead of winter kind of thing in Wisconsin. But I'm envious of those people that do it professionally or even just as for the sake of art because they're spectacular, and it's I'm sure for a lot of people, such a great outlet. As far as just being creative, and they can also use them and catch fish with them. So it's an impressive thing to see someone who's completely committed to it and dedicated to it.
And what makes the Driftless region an ideal destination for fly fishing?
Our particular area within the Driftless is they're mostly spring-fed creeks and streams. So what that means is that water that's coming directly from the source from the earth is staying at more consistent temperatures. And in the winter months, it's staying a bit warmer towards those springs. And because these are all very small, so they regulate temperature a little bit quicker, which means for trout, especially trout, they really, really need cold water. And so this area is ideal for that because the springs keep them a little bit warmer in the winter months and cooler in the summer months typically. So it's basically very, very healthy for cold water fish, namely trout. For us, because we are a trout shop, it's perfect. These streams are great for us to guide and great for us to, welcome others who want to come fish for trout.
And what are the best conditions for fly fishing in the Driftless?
Well, conditions as far as for the fish are it's a little bit different for them for the angler. There are certainly these fish really want cold water, and so that's what makes it ideal here. So, for us, the sweet spot as far as when fish are going to be feeding, maybe as low as 48 degrees, could go between 54 and 55. That's kind of prime. Maybe even up to 58 degrees is in that area is when they're going to probably be feeding the most abundantly. And our water temps will generally stay pretty consistent within that. In our spring and our fall months, summertime can get a little bit warm, but once the sun goes down and we've had enough time for these small streams to cool down, our mornings can be really good. Sometimes evenings can be really good. And they are very, very active in May, typically very active in early June, and then again into September and the first 2 weeks of October is also. So we usually say our busiest, best months are September and May.
All right. For someone who has never tried fly fishing before, what are some things they should know, and what can your shop, The Driftless Angler, provide them if it's their first go at this?
So I always tell people it looks so easy. We all watched the Brad Pitt movie, The River Runs Through It, and romanticized about, oh, this, you see that beautiful ribbon line moving, and everybody thought, oh, we can do this. It's no big deal. And there's a pretty steep learning curve to this. I kind of think it's similar to golf. We have this idea that we need to be really strong and powerful, and that's kind of just the opposite. You really need more in the way of meter and timing. A bit of muscle as you get into bigger fish and bigger rods, but yeah, it's really more about meter timing, knowing that you're not going to be, most people aren't good at it right away. You've got to, it takes some practice, but the nice thing about it is that you are in the most spectacular areas. I mean, they say that trout don't live in ugly places, and as cliche as it is, it's definitely true. And I would say that this area of the Driftless especially is just stunning. So even if you're frustrated and this isn't going as easily as you'd hoped it would, you look around, you step into a stream, you hear that noise of a little babbling brook, and you see bird life and plant life and insects, and it's just such a lovely experience. So patience, and then to continue coming back and doing it again in a really pretty place. I mean, it's all win, right?
Yeah, at least you're outside, even if you're not catching
Exactly.
anything.
Yeah.
And you offer guided fly fishing trips. What could someone expect if they signed up for one of those?
We do. And so trout season isn't year round in Wisconsin. So it begins the first Saturday in January and it ends the second week, so the 15th of October. So we do guide through most of that. As a brand new person, the first thing we'll do is we will find some water and I'll teach people how to set the rods up. We'll talk a little bit about lines and leaders and tippet and all the stuff. And then do a casting clinic, because I think for us, all the guides that work with us and for us, the goal is to teach you how to do this in hopes that you're going to be able to keep coming back and doing it on your own. So we do like fundamentals. We make sure you really, really have a solid cast. And then we go to the water and we teach people how to read water and what bugs are going to work, at that particular time. Typically we'll go over, just the basic bugs that we're going to see here and how we imitate them with certain flies that we get from the shop. So education is a big part of it. We're going to be teaching throughout the day. We do have half day sessions as well as full days. Half days are 4 hours on the water and full days are 8 hours on the water. And it's just basically A to Z. We're going to try to cover as much as we can with the amount of time that we've got.
And for our more experienced fly fishers who might be coming to the area, are there a couple of spots you'd recommend they check out for the best fly fishing?
Well, so I will say that as a rule, fly shops and guides and probably more experienced anglers, they're probably not going to ask for spots. We don't generally give them. What we tell people is come into our shop. We will give you a map and we will mark a few spots and start people off that way. Simply, the other thing is that there could be one stream that's just fishing lights out crazy right now, and in a matter of days to maybe even a week, it can, be crummy. So we, as guides, we fish as much as we can. We pay attention, when our guides are talking, what's fishing well and where. And that way we have, knowledge that we can give people day to day.
That makes good sense. So, turning to you now, Logan, what are some other things people can do in the Driftless region on a late summer or early fall visit?
Yeah, for another activity, outdoor lovers should definitely travel to nearby Ontario, Wisconsin. This is the base camp for paddling the Kickapoo River, and it's a must-do experience for the area. You're going to find several outfitters in Ontario that are renting kayaks, canoes, and tubes. And the Kickapoo, it's a relatively gentle river, so it makes for a great river to paddle for those who may be new to the sport. Fall is certainly a great time to paddle too, with those cooler temperatures and colors reflecting off the water. For another quintessential fall activity, definitely visit one of the apple orchards in the area. Not far from Viroqua is the community of Gays Mills, and it's actually one of Wisconsin's powerhouse apple growing regions. So you're going to find a ton of orchards there. One you might want to check out is Sunrise Orchards. They actually grow 20 plus varieties of apples. And of course, they are using those apples to make delicious pastries and sweets like their famous apple cider donuts.
And where are some places people could stay in the Viroqua area?
I'd suggest the Hotel Fortney in Viroqua for a historic and boutique experience. The hotel was built in 1899 in the Queen Anne style. After falling into some disrepair, the building went through an extensive restoration and it reopened a couple years ago. The results are absolutely fantastic. It's maintained this timeless elegance, original design elements like stained glass windows and tin ceilings have been beautifully preserved, while they've also introduced modern amenities and comforts. Another option, if you want to keep surrounding yourself in nature, is to check out the Kickapoo Valley guest cabins. It's a gorgeous property tucked away in those forested rolling hills that define the Driftless about half an hour east of Viroqua. So you're going to spend the night in cozy cabins that are full of rich woodwork and warm decoration. Be sure to step outside at night too. The stars in this part of Wisconsin are truly fantastic.
And if people aren't cooking up the trout that they caught for dinner, what are some restaurants people could check out in the area?
You should definitely check out Driftless Cafe for lunch or dinner. The restaurant prioritizes locally grown seasonal ingredients. They actually work with many of the more than 200 organic farmers in Vernon County to craft these farm fresh flavors. So the lunch menu, it's kind of like an ode to elevated comfort food. I still think of the fish sandwich I had there a few years ago. That's how you know it was a memorable meal. Their dinner menu too changes nightly based on what's available and what the restaurant is experimenting with. Another terrific option is maybe Lately's. They're open for breakfast and lunch and have some really awesome sandwiches, egg dishes, and more. I've had a coworker speak highly of them. If you're out there on a Monday too, be sure to check out the pizza night they host. They're serving up these creatively topped Detroit style pizzas. And then finally, for a little pre-fishing pick-me-up, you can check out Wonder State Coffee. They brew exceptional coffee and they're committed to doing so in a sustainable way. Their roasting facility is 100% solar powered, and you've also got a great selection of pastries. I can personally vouch for the scones there. They're great.
Nice. So, Geri, what is something everybody new and seasoned should know before they go fly fishing?
So I think I would say the most important thing is try to hang up your competitive hat. Try to, and it's easier said than done, for some, myself included, but understand that this area, I've fished, I guess, really all over the world. And I absolutely love big fish. I love, challenging fish. The standard size fish here isn't huge. It's small, but they're wild and they're gorgeous. And the area is gorgeous. And this is a slow pace. It's a super chill vibe. So coming here, understand that, you're going to see some spectacular views. And it's just a place to relax, have fun, and enjoy it. And I know perhaps cliche, but this isn't the place that you come and stress. This is the place that you come and unwind. And catching a fish, catching a beautiful wild trout, like that's just the cherry on top. So come here and maybe let the expectation be to just relax and enjoy it, and the fishing, will match your energy.
Well said. And Logan, what's a hidden gem that you'd recommend people check out in the Driftless?
So the Cashton area, it's a little bit north of Viroqua, and it's home to one of Wisconsin's largest Amish communities. So you're going to find a lot of little hidden gems here. You can visit a more established business like Old Country Cheese for Amish-made products, from cheese to candies and more. Or you can just cruise those backcountry roads in the area, and you're going to find furniture makers, bakeries, and other businesses that are open to the public. Then in the fall, you may even catch glimpses of harvest season, which is really fascinating to see.
And what about you, Geri? Any hidden gems you'd recommend?
So Driftless Books. It's a used bookstore, and it's in a big tobacco warehouse, a big, one of those brick awesome tobacco warehouses. And Eddie Nix is the owner, and he has just this amazing selection. And within this old building, there's also iron art, and they sometimes have bands and music play. And it's a real community space as well as just a really cool bookstore.
Awesome. Well, Geri and Logan, thank you both for joining me for Wandering Wisconsin.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
You and me going fishing in the dark, lying on our backs and counting the stars.
Geri Meyer is the co-owner of the Driftless Angler in Viroqua. Logan Wroge is a senior communications specialist with Travel Wisconsin. They both join Lake Effect's Becky Mortensen for Wandering Wisconsin, our monthly conversation where we help you plan a trip in our home state.
You can find more interviews like this one by visiting wuwm.com/lakeeffect. And while you're there, subscribe to the Lake Effect Spotlight podcast.